I am determined to see things differently. Remember to first read the lesson yourself and go through it and struggle with it and look at it, develop your own understanding and meaning before you look at commentary. That'll work best. So today we're continuing on the theme of determination with a new practice that goes with it. And the sense of determination is in these lessons is the sense of the word to cause something. For instance, in economic theory, demand determines supply. So in the causal sense of determination, it's our determination that will that's the power behind learning, the learning that we'll achieve here and getting the benefits for us. So the determination is a causal sense here. Okay, so one of the things we've been doing in all these lessons is recently we've been talking about our thoughts and how powerful they are, and that they're not neutral, and that's part of what's trying to be accomplished here, is to see the power of those thoughts. So one thing to remember, well, let me pull up the introduction here. If you remember through the in the text, and the purpose of the workbook is to get us to think along the lines the text sets forth, that this very important idea that the course's focus is not to teach the meaning of love, but to aim at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So that's really key. And so here in this lesson, we're being very specific about our thoughts because we're looking at what the course calls attack thoughts. And that's a theme that we're going to pick up in the next few lessons, the attack thoughts. And one really important thing to remember is to hold key this idea that comes from new thought, that how powerful your thoughts are, and not to give negative energy to something. It's like giving it negative energy is what makes it happen. And so the question is, why then is the course looking at all this negativity? Well, as I stated, it's to see the power of our minds, but the principle is always true. What you give power to is what you'll experience. So why are we looking at the darkness? Isn't that giving energy to it? Well, the principle holds all the time, and the point it's making here is that we're giving negative energy to our attack thoughts, but we're not aware of it. So that's what we're trying to become aware of, these thoughts and how powerful they are. So the principle holds. You don't want to give negativity to something, but we're not doing that here when we're uncovering these thoughts. We're trying to follow through on that principle and uncover unconscious ways in which we're giving negative energy to our thoughts. Okay, so the determination is key here, and we're going to focus on the attack thoughts. But one other thing that's key as we look at the thoughts and seeing how powerful they are, they're not neutral, is something I came across in chapter 2 that may be relevant to this, is that there's a resistance to seeing how powerful our minds are. It's a strategy in the mind to do that, not to be aware of how powerful they are. And well, let me just pull that up. In chapter 2, he's talking about fear. I think this is in conflict and fear, something like that. In any case, the idea is that fear is the opposite to love, and so that's why we're looking at it, to let go of it. But the whole paragraph here is in text, chapter 2, section 6, paragraph 9, is saying that the strategy we have now to mitigate the guilt feelings that we have is to make ourselves powerless, or to avoid the fact of how powerful the minds are, our minds are. So it's saying here in 7, every instant our mind is creating, it's hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that can literally move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such a power about yourself is arrogant, but that's not the real reason you do not believe it. You prefer to believe that your thoughts cannot exert real influence because you're actually afraid of them. So it says this may allay the awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. So this is kind of a common psychological insight that we make ourselves small so then we don't stick out, or something, and that's how we're going to be safe, if we make ourselves small. But the truth is we're not small, and so that mind is very powerful, and that determination is part of that strength. Okay, so let's go through the lesson here. So today, the idea for today is obviously a continuation, an extension of the preceding one, and so, but we're adding on to that with these mind-searching periods, and this other key that there's these formal mind-searching periods. He's going to suggest 5, but in addition to applying the idea to particular situations as they arise. That's really key. So it gives us the opportunity actually to practice this idea very often, because the situations do come up, during the day where there's upsets. So there's 5 practice periods, and let's see, let's move this down. Okay, so in the practice periods, begin by repeating the idea to yourself, close your eyes, search your mind for situations, past, present, or anticipated, that arouse anger in you. So we're taking our upset and giving it a particular form of anger, and anger thoughts or attack thoughts. And if you remember back a couple of lessons, these 2 cautions here, the degree of the emotion doesn't matter, and the kind of emotion that it is. So degree and kind is where we're not supposed to make distinctions. It doesn't matter how little or small it is. It doesn't matter what kind it is. If you let's see, which lesson was that in? Back in lesson 6. We had these injunctions that there's no small upsets, they're all equally disturbing to your peace of mind, and that there's no form of the upset that we can hang on to. So both degree and kind of anger or attack thoughts is what we're looking for in here. So he goes on to say that here, that eventually we'll see that what seems to be a little annoyance is really a big deal, but we're not aware of it. Okay, so that's one caution. Then here, try not to let the little thoughts of anger escape you. Remember that you do not really recognize what arouses anger in you, and nothing you believe in this connection means anything. That was an idea that came up in God Did Not Create a Meaningless World, where he made this outrageous statement that was very difficult to believe. A meaningless world engenders fears because I think I'm in competition with God. So it doesn't seem to be that it's that big a deal when the water cooler breaks or whatever, but it really is that big a deal, and he's trying to get us to be aware of that. So remember that you do not really recognize, it's this deep competition between the ego's thought system of who we are and the Holy Spirit's that's really going on, whatever form that is. So that's why he's suggesting that as we look at our thoughts, is to look at them randomly and not see any order in those thoughts. It's either an attack thought or it's not. It's either an anger thought or it's not. And part of that training of not making distinctions that way is to get us to Understand there's no order of difficulty in miracles. So we're not making those distinctions between big and small, and then we won't make those distinctions in miracles because miracles can handle anything. So that's part of what's going on there. So, okay. You will probably be tempted to dwell more on some situations than others, on that they're more obvious. This is not so. It's merely an example of the belief that some forms of attack are more justified than others. So it goes on to here to talk about the specificity as much as possible. So as you search your mind for all the forms in which attack thoughts present themselves, hold each one in the mind where you say, I'm determined to see the person differently. I'm determined to see whatever it is, the car didn't start or whatever it is. I'm determined to see it differently. And this is key here, specificity. If you remember from the workbook, we were talking about that it's through specific contexts, learning it in one very, very specific context is when we'll be allowed to generalize it to all contexts. So from the specificity is really important. So he's suggesting here you may, for example, focus your anger on a particular attribute of a particular person, believing that the anger is limited to this aspect, or any situation. So the specificity is really important because then it becomes crystal clear. So there's 5 practice periods for a minute, and then this key thing of, in addition, the idea to apply the idea in particular situations as they may arise on the fly. Okay, that's it for commentary lesson 21. Thank you.